three questions around sort of trees and hedges and kind of sort of follow-ons from that. It's something I'm quite interested in. I think I'm actually an orange box up there. I planted 6,500 trees and hedges last Christmas for my sins. So I'm just interested to know what planting trees and hedgerows for Dorset Council looks like. And then a follow-up question to that would be how we'll work with towns and parishes. So I've got an example actually of what we could be doing better, but I just wonder what we're actually doing with trees and hedges at the moment.
Yeah, so well, I think it's in the report, which I haven't got in front of me, but the number of trees planted hasn't been, we haven't done tons of that. We don't own woodland in that respect, and we look after trees, highway trees, but I think there's been an increase in highway trees actually, so we do manage those.
We have a commitment to plant 3 every time we cut one down.
Yes.
And we put a big number down, so we must have planted 3 times that many in theory.
I think we might need to come back to you. I think it's a really good question, which is like, what's that kind of, what is our tree planting regime, which is something that we can definitely ask Jan's team about, just to get clarity on that. I think the question about towns and parish councils is a good one. We probably don't have good data about exactly what they're up to. And a lot of them are doing a lot of really interesting stuff in this area. So I'm sure they're on the map somewhere, but in terms of like specifics, in terms of tracking their activities, I don't think we're quite there yet.
Apparently we've taken over 11,000 out in raised areas.
That came over in my area.
Should be 33,000 we planted.
That was in relation to nature recovery of the heathland.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, but we have our figures. If we cut one down, we plant 3. That's one we've got. So there should be 33,000 somewhere, I'm guessing. And maybe an update on that would be really useful, because that is one of our policies, isn't it? So
I think we're going to have, if you don't mind, we'll, because I think it's a different group of people who'd be able to answer that question. We can go and do that. I think on the towns and parishes, I think, as I say, we're involving them in this work, but I think partly in another strand of work, that more systematic relationship with towns and parishes, that means that we can do this kind of big scale strategic stuff together, is absolutely what we're working on.
Can I just add to that we've already run workshops with them. They've asked us to provide information to them and work with them. So we're just at the start of that delivery phase, really. So we've already connected to them. So we're quite hopeful for the future.
Nice. Okay.
So with so do you want to jump in as well?
Go on, go for it. I was just going to add to that. There are lots of different things as well, that some of which are noted within the report, the different projects that are going on across Dorset, some of which are run by the council, so some of which are run by National Landscapes, some by community organisations. So the Great Dorset Hedge is one example of a sort of large hedge planting community-based sort of project. There's also a community tree scheme that the National Landscapes run, and farming protected landscape stuff has also done all sorts of tree and hedgerow sort of planting directly. So there's a lot going on. So maybe we could just sort of gather that all together and sort of.
Yeah.
The reason I asked the question is I know from sort of personal experience in my ward, there's actually quite a lot that towns and parishes on my ward are doing around tree and hedgerow plants, which they invariably will be, we have a councillor in Beaminster, the councillor Richard Biggs, done some brilliant work on this, where he's been given hundreds of trees from a charity, but and maybe this is like the opportune time to mention these kind of small scale examples, because he's having a real sort of dilemma at the moment. He's been given all these hundreds of trees, and we've got a team of volunteers that are really keen to sort of plant these, but he's actually finding it hard to find places to plant it, because he's emailed highways or officers who have come back and said, well, you can't plant it there, but you can plant it there, but then you've got to insure that tree, and actually like the kind of bureaucratic, what I'm trying to say, process. But I'm just wondering if at this early stage, if we can kind of try to let common sense prevail a little bit around those sorts of things, because when you start thinking about things like devolution, and the council maybe trying to give up, or give land to local towns and parishes do more, that seems like a really good opportunity actually to just kind of let them go plant these trees and hedges, because I said Councillor Biggs has emailed me saying I've got 250 trees that I want to plant, and there's no way to do it. I'm just wondering what that can look like practically.
Yeah, we are aware of that, and I've spoken to Steve Maris in the ARBS team, and he forever gets emails to say, I've got some trees, can we have along the highway? But that isn't always the best place for the trees.
No.
And that's the issue, but we are aware of that, and maybe it's something that we should look at as a council to have a place where we offer that as well.
I think I think what's coming out there is the idea that we do a lot of saying we do partnership working, and we do a lot of working with groups of people that choose to come along to specifically named things. But actually, what we're trying to do is let's work with the actual town and parishes to make it really easy for them. Because I know that as a town councillor, I wasn't aware that I could even come along to this as a town councillor, and I can't be the only person that is a dual hat or in one of those councils that wasn't aware of it. And so let's really push it to them that if you have an aspiration to plant trees, we can enable you. Because I think that's what we're doing, is let's really work with them and use common sense to set the ground as we're going.
And I think it's actually more in not necessarily, if you want to go, if a local town councillor approached me and said, I've got 10 oak trees, I want to go plant on this mini roundabout, clearly that's not going to be the best place to plant a tree, or 10 trees. But it's actually more the kind of the concern that is created to towns and parishes. So actually the concern for him and the town council wasn't that, well, this bit of verge isn't really suitable because of highways. That's absolutely reasonable. But it's the kind of where you can plant some trees, but you have to insure it. We won't take the liability. And to me, that's just, well, I felt like saying, well, just plant them and then they can plant it. But the point is trying to make that kind of worry for like a small parish or even for me, a small town, to sort of take that away and say, I don't need to worry so much about those sorts of things. Now, it's easy for me to say that, but I just wonder if there's the message coming back is, well, actually you can't plant trees because if you do, then you're responsible, you're liable, you'll have to insure them, and it puts people off.
Yeah, no one. Yeah, I know. So I was with the leader at the town and parish council's annual meeting, and actually there's a sort of like over the coming kind of like probably over the course of the next year, we've really got to kind of like really describe what does double devolution really mean, and what is it that we're trying to support towns and parishes to do more effectively. This is a really good example of the fact that at the moment it's probably quite a complicated process to approach us with a bunch of, I've got 200 whips, where do I put them? That seems like a sensible question that we're not really set up yet to answer with a simple, well, this is what you do. And in the same way we've been trying to simplify the community asset transfer process, there's a whole load of other things that we can work to simplify so that when somebody turns up with a really brilliant offer around the nature, so the nature agenda, we can actually help them do it.
I think we're getting slightly, it's really useful, really great feedback, but again, I think we're getting slightly off there, and that's